going to just flip through the screen. Some of you are on camera, some of you aren't. So grateful to all of you for choosing to be a part of this conversation. And we're going to wait just a couple of moments because I think it's going to just want to make sure that everyone gets on who wants to be on. Sarit, hi, I'm happy you're here. It's nice to see your face. Cindy, hi. Gigi, it's good to see you. Thank you very much, all of you. Glenna, Troy, I see you in Trinidad, my friend. And Melanie, I'm just really grateful and glad that you all are here. Hi, Destin, thank you for being a part of this. And Anita, I'm hearing a little bit of feedback, so I'm wondering if someone is unmuted, and I want to make sure that all of you mute yourself. We're going to do it on our end, but every once in a while something pops through, and we want to make sure that this conversation is not in any way interrupted. Okay, Anita, you good with the mute thing on your end? And we're all still we're all good. All right, people are still coming into the room. So again, I'm going to wait for a moment. I will announce now, and I'll hopefully I'll remember to announce it again, that some of you, when you went to sign up, you were able to register. That means we have your email. Some of you, it just went right on through. And if that's the case, it means that you don't have access to a link in case you want to listen to this later. So if that was you, if you were able just to come onto this meeting, I think Anita's going to put the link somewhere.
It's in the chat right now.
It's in the chat so that you can have access to this link. You can share the link so that you can listen to this at your own leisure. So if that was the case, we apologize for that. Don't know how it why it worked for some and didn't for others. If you want to say hi in the chat, you can. Natasha, hi from Whitby, Canada. Blessings, Cindy, thank you for being here. And people are still coming in, so it's going to, again, take another moment. And Angelica, hello from Texas. Thank you so much for being here and a part of this conversation, a necessary conversation, a scary one, an intense one, painful. But like I said, a necessary one. If healing is going to happen, we have to start from the root. And so grateful for Friends of Roots for coming on and wanting to be to facilitate this conversation. People are still coming on, so I'm just going to wait. Anita, it looks like there's someone in the waiting room. You're letting everyone in, right? So a couple of ground rules before we start is that if you have like a thought or a question, feel free to put it in the chat. The arc of this is that I'm gonna talk for a little bit and just set a little bit of context and share why we're doing this. And then I'm gonna introduce you to Rabbi Hanan Schleisinger and Noor from Friends of Roots, and they're gonna take it from there. This is not an exchange, this is not a dialogue, this is a journey, and that they are hosting and supporting, and we are all here, including myself and the team from Off the Mat, to listen and learn and to really be in the presence of people who, because of their own lived experience, have intense skin in the game, if you will, and we're hoping to learn more from their experience. So we will be leaning back and letting them have this space, and afterwards, if there's time, I'm going to be going through the chat, and if there's questions that feel relevant and important to the overall conversation of trauma, then I'm going to ask Noor and Hanan to answer those questions if they will. And on Tuesday, Noor and Hanan will be coming back. Because this is a conversation that's related to trauma, we really are inviting all of you to sit with what comes up in your own body, get really present to whatever it is you might be feeling. Take some time over the next couple of days to really think about your feelings and your questions, And then we'll come back on Tuesday and Hanan and Noor will support you in processing some of those feelings, but in a way that gives you some space to integrate it. So hopefully that everyone understands then, and that's Tuesday at 11 o'clock California time, West Coast time. And all right, I think everyone is on who's going to be on. So first thing I'd like to do is ask all of you just to sit up tall and close your eyes. And just take a deep breath in. Exhale it out through the mouth. And do that again. Take a deep breath in. And exhale through the mouth. And check in with your own bodies right now. With everything that's been going on in Israel and in Palestine, over social media, with everything based on your own historical roots to this land. To those of us on this call who aren't directly perhaps connected to the land, but feel into the violence, the oppression, the inequality, the fear, the feelings of injustice, confusion. Track your bodies. Notice any tension in your jaw, your throat, your shoulders. See if you can bring some breath into your body. Notice if you feel any heat in your face, tingling in your hands. Name the sensation if you can. Electric, tight, hot, stabby, numb, dull. And resource yourself by feeling your connection, your physical connection with the earth beneath you. Perhaps feeling the coolness of air on your skin, the firmness of the floor, the familiarity of your space, sounds perhaps of your animals or children or traffic. And take another very deep breath in, filling your body and into that tension with oxygen, with prana, exhaling it out through the mouth. And then place your palms into prayer. And together we invoke the God of our own unique understanding. Be it your higher power, the creative consciousness, Mother Earth, Allah, Yahweh, whatever it is that speaks to your soul. We ask, may this conversation be an opportunity for healing, grounding, wisdom to occur in our body, our mind, and our heart. We ask to listen deeply to the truths of others, to be open to their wisdom, and to be available to understanding the root cause of violence, which is trauma, and how deep that trauma lives within all of our collective bodies, historically, ancestrally, culturally. And that perhaps if we can understand this trauma, we can begin to transcend its pull, its impulse towards separation, towards violence, and move into a space of compassion and integration. We ask, may this moment together be blessed. Take another very deep breath in. Exhale it out through the mouth. And then everyone, please open your eyes. Thank you all very much for joining us off the mat, and Rabbi Hanan Schleisinger and Noor. I want to take a moment just to share with you, many years ago, I went to Israel on a couple of occasions with the with the interest in wanting to understand and learn more about the Israel and Palestine conflict. And as an American Jew, trying to reconcile the trauma, the division, the separation that to me seemed so evident, but being outside of the culture, I knew I didn't understand. And I was blessed enough to be able to go into the West Bank and meet with Friends of Roots. And my experience there, it really reaffirmed my hope in humanity because of the work that was being done. We reached out to Friends of Roots to invite them into this conversation because we recognize that within our own organization, there was much for us to learn. We believe our commitment at Off the Mat is to bridge the gap between yoga and inner work and social justice and conscious action. We take a trauma-informed approach and are committed to our anti-racist work, as well as to always stand on the side of the oppressed. In regards to this conflict that's happening in Israel and in Palestine, we took a stand, but realized quickly the complexities of this horrific conflict. And we found that to express support for Palestinian freedom, safety, equality, and rights, or to criticize Israeli policy seemed to automatically be synonymous with being anti-Israel, or more to the point, anti-Jewish, which is obviously very problematic, especially because of the uptick of anti-Semitic acts that are happening here in our nation, in the United States. Or to defend Jewish people, especially Israeli Jews who do want peace, meant that you were siding with the oppressor and were anti-Palestinian. And so we as an organization, we just had to stop and take a breath and remember our own principles and belief that the root of this violence is trauma. Trauma that is historical, it's ancestral, it's cultural, and it's deeply embodied. This trauma that is influenced by fear and hate, and ultimately what causes a knee-jerk reaction that can and is resulting in death. And so we knew we needed help. How do we engage in this conversation? How do we support, how do we take a stand without contributing to more suffering, more pain, more hate? How can we criticize policy without it becoming more more separation, more othering? We don't know the answer to this. And that's why we reached out to Friends of Roots, because they are a grassroots movement that is doing the work, that in their community, in their culture, Jews and Palestinians coming together to do trauma-informed work, to address these deep issues amongst each other, to recognize that they all have a right to this land, and even with ideological, differences, that big picture, there's a lot more between these families that are the same, and that once in relationship, violence, separation, death becomes impossible when there's a connection and a commitment to each other's happiness, health, welfare, and life. And so, Rabbi Hanan Schleisinger, thank you. Noor, Awad, thank you for being willing to walk us through this and to help us understand more about your work, about your lived experience, and what we can do going forward to navigate some of the conflict and confusion that we feel, so that we're not creating more division, more harm, and in some cases, more death. So Hanan, I'm going to pass this mic to you, and please take it away and take us on your journey.
Thank you, Sean. And thank you, Anita, also for facilitating this. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. I live in an area of the Holy Land, the land between the Mediterranean Sea and the Jordan River, in a part of the land where Israelis and Palestinians live right next to each other, almost on top of each other, but completely separately. We live in separate towns and villages. We speak different languages, have different religions, different calendars, different educational systems, different transportation systems. We shop in different places, send our kids to different schools, different cultural activities, different media, radio, television, newspaper. It's all separate. And under those conditions where we live so close to each other, but have so little contact with each other, we're full of ignorance for the other, we're full of resentment, we're full of, yes, fear and loathing, lots of hate, racism. No one knows anyone on the other side. No one knows anything about the other side. Completely separate. It goes so far as the following: there's no common ground. And when I say that, it's not a metaphor. I mean, literally, there's no ground, there's no place that is common to the two sides. Because you see, there's Israeli towns, cities, settlements. Palestinians are not allowed to go into them except as workers with a work permit under armed guard. And there's Palestinian towns and villages and cities. And according to Israeli military law, Israelis cannot enter the Palestinian places. So there's no common ground. Literally, were there to be a strange Israeli and a strange Palestinian who wanted to have a cup of coffee together, there's no such thing, but was there such a thing, there'd be almost no place to do it. No common ground, no place to sit together. Until 7 years ago, we, and I'll explain later who is we created Merkaz Karama. Merkaz Karama, Merkaz is a Hebrew word that means center. Karama is an Arabic word that means dignity. We created the Dignity Center. The Dignity Center is, as far as I know, the only place where, in the area where I live, it's the only place where Palestinians and Israelis can both come together, sit together, talk in equality, in dignity, with a sense of real empathy. What it means is we created the only joint Israeli-Palestinian community center in the whole West Bank. Merkaz Karama was created by Roots. Roots is the Israeli-Palestinian grassroots initiative for understanding, nonviolence, and transformation. So the two sides, they come together in informal activities, in cultural activities, sports activities, summer camps, day camps, youth groups, photography workshops, music therapy, whatever it might be. Ramadan dinners, interfaith dialogue. And they come with their hesitations. They come with their fears of each other. They sit on different sides of the room. They eye each other warily. And then we begin to break the ice, formally or informally. People talk to each other. They listen to each other. And it happens so often that at the end of events, you see a sense of relief, of happiness in people's faces. They come up to me, they say, Hanan, that was great. I say, what was so great? And they say, you see the guy on the other side of the room? I talked to him. I had a conversation with her. The very fact that Israeli talks to a Palestinian, Palestinian talks to Israeli, creates a, wow, they're just like me. I had no idea. People are surprised. And they're surprised that they're surprised, but they're surprised to discover that you can talk to them, whether them is, that they're more or less like us, that they're human beings. A process of understanding begins, of humanization. It's not all the time. It's not immediate. It's very difficult. It's painful. A lot of hurdles. The process, I would say, is a process of healing. Because I have this claim that Israelis and Palestinians both are sick. In a certain sense, we're mentally ill. I call this disease the hubris of exclusivity. The hubris of exclusivity. And this disease infects us with the certainty that My story is the only story in this land. My people is the only people in this land. My connection to this land is the only real connection. The others are fake. They're liars. They don't belong here. We live in our bubble of our truth. And when you get to know the other deeply through the programs of roots, properly constructed, you begin to break out of that hard, callous shell that prevents the other story from penetrating. You break out, you heal from that hubris of exclusivity, again, slowly, gradually, not always, and you become, I would say, a more whole human being. It's for these reasons that I say that our center, Merkaz Karama, the Dignity Center, is not just a community center, and it's not just a mental health clinic, even though I'm not a psychologist. It's also holy ground to allow the Tselem Elokim, the sense of the other's divine worth, to come forth and enter into my consciousness, to expand my consciousness that my story is true, but his story is just as true. That's holy work. And every time I come to our center, which is almost every day, I have that sense of holy ground, stepping on holy ground. Okay, that's my introduction. I didn't introduce myself yet. Now it's time to introduce myself. As you heard, my name is Hanan Schleisinger. I'm a rabbi. I've been living in the West Bank for about 40 years now. I have a deep sense of Jewish history. I'm connected to the past, the present, and the future of the Jewish people. My identity is built around Judaism and the Jewish people. And therefore I have a deep sense, a deep knowledge that the Jewish people, the people of Israel, have been connected to the land of Israel for 3,000 years. We lived here, my forefathers lived here, great, 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 great grandfather. And we established roots here. We established cities and towns and a culture and a religion and a way of life. But then we were exiled from this land by the Romans. The year is 70 of the Common Era. For the past 2,000 years, we've been not home. We've been in exile, in the diaspora. The Zionist movement was born about 100 years ago to create a political platform to return the people, the Jewish people, to their rightful home. And I'm part of that movement. I was born in New York. I wasn't born in the land of Israel. When I was 18, I picked up my 2 bags. I got on the plane and I made Aliyah, which means I ascended to the land. Out of a sense, it's time to not only pray and hope and yearn and cry to come back home, but it's time to do it. The conditions are right and I can come home. And I came home and there's a great sense of fulfillment there, fulfilling the prophecies of the Jewish and Christian Bible that predict the day when the children of the land will come home. And I came home to live where I live, not in Tel Aviv, not on the coastal cities of Ashkelon or Haifa. I came to live in the heartland, what many of you would call the West Bank. The terms I used at the beginning to explain where I live. I don't call it the West Bank because that's a political term. I don't want to talk politics. I want to talk history, identity. I call it Judah and Samaria because that's what the Bible calls it. Judah is the area south of Jerusalem where I live. Samaria is the area north of Jerusalem. It's called that. That's what the Bible calls it. That's where Jewish history is found. That's where 90% of the Bible is written. That's where during 90% of the time when the Jewish people lived in land, that's where we lived. This is where we have our history, our artifacts. This is where you can open up the Bible and walk in the fields and you open the verses, you read the verses and you're walking where you're learning about. You feel the continuity of history. You feel you're writing the next page in the Bible. It's real, it's powerful, it's meaningful, it's continuity. And then 7.5 years ago, I began to learn that I don't really know what I'm talking about. I don't really know where I live. I don't really know where I am. And it's not that everything I talked about for the past 8 minutes was a lie. It's rather that everything I talked about for the past 8 minutes was only part of the story, whereas I had thought for 33 years that what I just told you is all of the story. And when you mistake part of the story for the whole story, then indeed I think you are coming close to falsehood. If not falsehood, then blindness. I was blind for 33 years. I didn't see the Palestinians. They're 85% of the population around where I live, but I walked right by them. They were like the gray, drab scenery that passes in the background of the movie, but is not part of the plot. They weren't there. And one of the things that helped to begin the process of arousing me from my sleep, from my blindness, was a day about 7.5 years ago when I was driving my car here in Judea. I had 2 guests from the States in the car, Protestant pastors. They wanted me to show them how the biblical prophecies are coming true, how the Jewish people are coming back home and making the land bloom. With great pride, I showed them around. We drove, I showed them the forest that we planted and the roads that we paved and the settlements and towns we built. And as we're driving, I picked up a hitchhiker. There's more room in the car. I picked up another hitchhiker. And after the 2 hitchhikers asked to leave the car, I stopped, let them out. One of the pastors in the car, one of my guests sitting right next to me in the front seat, he said, "Hanan, that was a great thing you did. You picked up hitchhikers. You taught us a lesson in Jewish ethics. Thank you for doing that." And I said to them, "Bob, Kevin, it's not just me around here. We all pick up hitchhikers. We have a common sense of destiny. We trust each other. And just like everyone else," I said, "I do my best to pick up every person who puts out his finger for a ride." And by the time I finished that sentence, I realized that I was lying. I was lying to my guests. Even worse, I was lying to myself. I said that I pick up every person. But what I should have said is I pick up every Jew. I'd never picked up a Palestinian in my life. But I didn't know that I never picked up a Palestinian. Apparently, they were transparent for me. And I had this deep sense of embarrassment when I blurted out that sentence that I pick up every person. A sense that there's a moral blemish in me, that I think that the Jews are only people around here. I just don't see the Palestinians. So I took upon myself to fix that, to remedy that. I said to myself, I'm going to meet Palestinians, and in that way, they'll become human for me. They'll become significant. They'll be real. I began this journey of trying to meet Palestinians, and basically for a long time, I failed. No one can introduce me. They're all around me, but no one has any connections. How am I going to meet them? Long story, a meeting was arranged. I got an invitation to meet Palestinians. I was supposed to go to this place the last Wednesday of January 2014 in the afternoon. I had a map. I took the map in my hand. I began to walk out my house. My wife says, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going to meet Palestinians." She screams, "Where are you going? They're going to kill you. You can't do that." And I approached her. I saw the terror in her eyes. She begged me not to go. The truth is, I was probably as afraid as she was, but I knew I had to do this. I walked out of the house. I walked through the fields, didn't take the car. The map said it would take only 20 minutes. My heart's pounding, didn't know what they would do to me. These Palestinians are going to meet. I got there. It's a field surrounded by a rock wall, Palestinian agricultural land. I walk in, there's really very few trees, pretty empty, there's no buildings. But I saw something that cannot be. I saw 15 Israelis and 15 Palestinians. They were doing the strangest thing. They were talking to each other. 2 here, 3 here, 4 here. I saw this woman not talking to anyone, dressed in brown from head to toe. Only her face was visible. Clearly a observant Muslim. I said hello to her in English. She said hello back to me. We talked for about a minute until I said to her, "I can't believe that I'm talking to you." And she responded, "I can't believe that I'm talking to you because we don't talk to Israeli settlers." A bit of a silence, but we continued. But not for long, her son came over. She introduces me. She told me his name is Yazin, he's 17 years old. So I put out my hand to shake hands with Yazin. We shake hands, we begin to talk, and I see he's wearing a jacket. And on the jacket, the 3 words over the lapel, the 3 words in English were seeds of peace, seeds of peace. Now, I had no idea what seeds of peace is, but I knew one thing with absolute certainty. He's a Palestinian. His jacket says peace, and that's impossible. Peace and Palestinian doesn't mix, because I was certain they're all terrorists. And I was confused by his jacket. I said to myself, he probably found it on the ground. He doesn't know what it says. If he knew, he wouldn't wear it because he's a Palestinian. So jokingly, I said to Yazin, what's this seeds of peace thing? And instead of saying, I don't know, he told me it's a summer camp in Maine, USA. A summer camp that takes Israeli kids and Palestinian kids out of the conflict zone for a summer of recreation and reconciliation. He said he just got back from the camp. He had a great time. Met Israeli kids there, their friends on Facebook. And he told me he was so affected by that summer that now he wants to spend some of his life building bridges of peace between Israelis and Palestinians. And I didn't know if I can believe what he was saying, because it contradicted everything that I knew to be true. And you might say that Yazin began the process of unsettling me. I was confused. And then his father walks over. Jamal and I shake hands. He's a short, stocky guy. He told me the family's from Beit Umar. Whoa. I didn't say anything, but my mind was racing. Beit Umar. It's a Palestinian town, 20,000 Palestinians, a 6-minute drive from where I've spent most of my life. I've had many rocks thrown at me on the curve on the road at Beit Umar. My friend, Dr. Shmuel Gilis, was murdered on that road. I assume by someone from Beit Umar. So I know that they're all terrible people. They're all terrorists. And now I'm talking to Jamal from Beit Umar. That was not easy. It was challenging. But I listened. And Jamal began telling me his life story. I'm going to tell you 2 little anecdotes that he related to me. He said, Hanan, you know that in Beit Umar, we're all Palestinians. There's no Israelis, there's no Jews, except for the Israeli soldiers who guard the entrance to the village. And they prevent us from going in and going out. We hate the soldiers. And since they're the only Israelis we know, we hate all Israelis by extension. No one in Beit Umar would ever want to meet one over a cup of coffee, except, he said, for a neighbor he had. And many, many years ago, he told me this neighbor invited him to come, Jamal, to come to interfaith dialogue between Jews and Muslims in the city of Jericho, about an hour's drive away. And Jamal told me, he said, I said to my friend, I'll never, ever come with you. That's only for the weak people and the traitors. I'm not meeting the enemy. But the friend wouldn't get off his back, kept trying to convince him. And Jamal tagged along once. He said they sat in a big room in Jericho in a circle. They talked Muslims and Jews, but I, Jamal, didn't participate. I sat in the corner, but I listened. At one point, Jamal tells me, one of the Jews got up from his chair and he looked at me, at Jamal. I was really uptight what he might do to me. He came right up to me, walked up to me, and he forced me to shake his hand. Then he started asking me questions. I had to talk with him. It was really uncomfortable. And then Jamal said to me, to Hanan, when the guy walked away, I wiped the sweat off my brow and ran to the bathroom to wash up the filth from touching the hand of an Israeli Jew, and I vowed never to come back to this cursed place again. Jamal went home, told his wife, she agreed it was a terrible mistake to go there. They should never tell anyone, just forget about it. But Jamal's friend wouldn't stop trying to convince him to go back. Somewhat happened, he went back, but his wife wouldn't let him go alone. She came along. The next time, she came again. The next time, they brought the kids. And Jamal stops the story and he looks at me and says, Hanan, where I thought there was only an enemy, I met a human being, and he turned out to be a partner, and that changed me. I'm listening to Jamal's story. I don't know what to do with myself. This can't be. Palestinians don't go through such transformations in interfaith dialogue because they're all terrorists. And I was getting challenged, upset, I would say. Jamal tells me another story. He says, Hanan, you know, there's lots of little kids in Beit Umar, 5 years old, 8 years old. When they see someone who looks like you, they start to cry. I said, Jamal, what are you talking about? Why did they start to cry? And Jamal couldn't understand why I don't understand. Till out of frustration, he said, Hanan, you don't get it. It's the kippah you have on your head. And it's the long beard. And it's those fringes hang from your pants because all the people look like you. They carry submachine guns. He does like this. And they walk into Beit Umar and try to kill the kids. Silence. What am I going to say to him? I thought it was borderline anti-Semitism, what prejudice he harbors. I should tell him how wrong he is. But somehow I understood that my role at that moment was to listen. It was a moment of blessing for me, because for the first time in my life, I'm experiencing how the other experiences me. And if I can just hold that and not react in rage, I may be a better person. So I didn't say anything and I just tried to absorb it. And it felt like the seconds were ticking and I didn't know how to get out of this uncomfortable situation. And then a light bulb goes off in my mind and I see in my mind's eye, my son-in-law and my son and my daughters-in-law and my family going out for a tiyul, going out for a walk in the fields. And they're carrying guns. My son and son-in-law, they all have pistols. And I realized that to the Palestinians, to see people walking with guns, people look like so different than them, that must be frightening. So I said to Jamal, Jamal, what do you want? We carry guns because we're afraid of you. And he looked at me as if I'm crazy. He said, no, 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 you're not afraid of us. We're afraid of you. And that was a moment both of clarity and of total confusion. He's afraid of us. We're afraid of them. I was more and more challenged. I met a lot of people that day. At the end, we sat in a circle, 15 Israelis and 15 Palestinians, and Ali Abu Awad, the owner of the land we were convening on, and one of the persons who arranged the get-together, Ali said, I want everyone to feel at home. I'm Ali Abu Awad from a proud Palestinian family. Thank you for coming to my family land. My family lived for generations in a place called Kubeba, he said. In 1948, Israel conquered it, changed the name to Lachish, and we went into exile, we Palestinians. We came here to Beit Umar, my family said. 1967, the Israelis came again. And since then, we're living under the rigors and the suffering of the Israeli occupation. My heart froze. He said, Israeli occupation? Israeli occupation? You mean Israeli, my occupation? I had no idea what he was talking about. No idea. You see, I'd read in the newspaper, heard on the radio, the UN, United Nations always condemning the Israeli occupation, but I had never seen this occupation thing. Where is it? Because when I drive in the roads of Samaria, when I walk in the fields of Judea, I don't see occupation. I see the return of the Jewish people to our ancient homeland after 2,000 years of exile. What could be more righteous, more just than that? And I hear from Ali Abu Awad that my people's homecoming is his people's suffering. And my people's independence is his people's Nakba, their tragedy. And it was so challenging and so upsetting to hear this new, this crazy, this contradictory perspective from Ali. I didn't know what to do with it. It totally contradicted everything I knew, but I couldn't get up and say, Ali, you're a liar, because he wasn't trying to convince us of anything. It wasn't a political discourse. He was telling the story of his life, his experience, but it contradicted my experience so deeply that I was utterly confounded. And I went home that day after everything I experienced in those 3 hours, and I began to get nauseous. I remember pacing back and forth in my study, the same study you can see that I'm sitting in right now, and I feel like my stomach is falling out. I have to bend down and pick it up and put it back in, because this is Israel. He says it's Palestine. This is our freedom. He says that it's occupation. What is this? How can I live with this? And I felt that I had to get to the bottom of it. It wasn't a matter of knowledge, of books. It was a matter of experience. So I went back to the place that I first met Ali, and I found him there. We began to talk. And it wasn't just Ali and Hanan, not at all. There were other Israelis who wanted to meet this Palestinian character, Ali Abu Awad. And there were other Israelis who wanted to meet the other Palestinians who were gathering around Ali. we began to talk and talk and talk. January, February, March, April, May of 2014. And no one knows how it happened, but somehow we unconsciously set ground rules, I would say, that we're not there to yell at each other and not to prove that we're right and you're wrong. We're there just for one purpose. That has two aspects to it: to tell stories and to listen to stories. Ali told us the story of his people, of his history, of his identity. A lot of stories about recent history, the first Palestinian uprising, Intifada, the second uprising, the 10 years he was sentenced to Israeli jail, his hunger strike in jail, seeing his mother beaten by Israeli soldiers in front of his eyes, having his brother, in his words, murdered by Israeli soldiers, of moving from the course of violence to nonviolence, learning from Martin Luther King and Gandhi. And every time that Ali used the word Palestine, it was like a dagger to our hearts. And then we told our story. We talked about the Jewish people. We talked about connection of 3,000 years to this land, 2,000 years of exile, coming home after all those years of exile. And when a Jew says to a Palestinian, I've come home to the land of Israel, it's like a dagger to his heart. We began to see how each side's identity contradicts the other side's identity. We began to see how each side believes the other side's going to disappear tomorrow. We're living with that dream that one day they'll get the idea. Israelis think about Palestinians, Palestinians think about Israelis, that they'll realize they don't belong here and they'll leave. But in our discussions, we began to see that neither side is going anywhere because we both belong to the same land. We began to see how each side builds its identity upon the nullification of the other side's identity. You know what Palestinians say to Israelis? They say, Jew, great, the Quran loves the Jewish people. I'm sorry, take it back. The Quran loves the Jewish faith, but you're a faith, you're a religion, you're not a people, they say. And a faith doesn't require land. So what are you doing in our land? Go home to Russia where you came from. Go home to New York. And you know what Israelis say to Palestinians? They say, Palestinian, there's no such thing as Palestinian, you're just an Arab. There never was a Palestinian state, so go back to Lebanon, go back to Syria, go back to where you came from. What are you coming to take our land? And we began to understand that you can't tell the other who they are. You have to let them speak and you listen. Who they are, that's who they are, who they say they are. And we began to understand, as Ali said one day, Hanan, we have to find a way to fit two truths into one heart. Two truths into one heart and two peoples into one land. And that's so hard because you feel as if you're a traitor to your own people by admitting the other side also belongs here. But the idea we came upon is you don't have to be wrong for me to be right. There can be two truths. There are two truths. And we founded Roots. We didn't mean to found a new organization, but we realized we have something new here. This deep, deep listening, this pluralism of truths, the sense that the whole land is mine, but the whole land is also yours. It's all Israel. The river to the sea, Jewish identity, Jewish history is about the whole land. But Palestinian identity is also about the whole land. The whole land is Palestine from the river to the sea. And I don't have to feel contradicted in admitting the other side's truth. In Roots, we didn't form an organization that is moving towards universal identity. We didn't say, no Jews, no Palestinians, no Israelis, no Zionism, we're all the same, we're all human beings. No, 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 no. We're Jews, we're Zionists, we're Israelis, they're Palestinians, they're Muslims, they're Christians, they're strong in their identities. And we in Roots believe that you have to build peace, not upon nullification of any identity, any particular identity, but rather through the overcoming of the hubris of exclusivity in which my identity is not threatened by admitting that your identity is just as legitimate as mine is. Your connection to land is just legitimate as mine is. It's not a zero-sum game. we began to realize how deeply fear and trauma and the sense of victimization are controlling our lives and our destinies. How much the sense of we have to protect we have to attack you to protect ourselves is causing so much death and so much destruction. We began to see that our identities have to be expanded. Our identities have to learn to embrace who we are and who they are as well. It's not easy. It's actually excruciatingly difficult. And indeed, because this conflict is understood by everyone as a zero-sum game, when you go beyond that zero-sum game, when you try and make it win-win, when you see the brotherhood, the humanity, the connections between the two sides, you're always accused of being a traitor, of letting your side down, of letting it chink into the armor of what we call in Hebrew, tzidkat derech, the conviction of the truth of our way. Our way is true, but their way is true also. And you know what? I would add the part of our way that insists that their way is false, that part of it is false. So we founded Roots. We founded the Dignity Center. What makes us unique, I would say, is that we are creating reconciliation among the hardcore. The Israelis who we attract, and this because of where we are situated in the West Bank, the right wing, the observant religious Jews, the most deeply committed to their identity, to their history, to their exclusivity. Those are the people being brought into the dialogue. And again, not by asking them to go beyond their identity, but rather to expand their identity. On the Palestinian side, it's refugee families from 1948, like Noor's family. It's observant Muslims who you'd expect to be associated with Hamas. It's people who've spent years and sometimes decades in Israeli jail with, you would think, the greatest bitterness. But it's these two sides that are coming together to overcome the past and create a better future. And I will end by saying, before Noor speaks, that you didn't hear me speak a word of politics. But that's not because we say that politics is unimportant. In Roots, we believe politics is extremely important. We believe the present political reality is wrong, is bad, is unjust, and it's creating more and more suffering and a sense of victimhood and vengeful, how do you say? And a sense of further need to be defensive, to be aggressive, to be in conflict. The politics is bad. So why didn't I speak about politics? Why isn't Roots a political organization? Because we've discovered that this conflict is so deep. It's about politics, but it's much deeper than politics. It's about, yes, borders, about security, about resources, but it's about more than that. It's about who are we and who are they? Who are the Palestinians? Do they exist? Who are the Jewish people? Do they exist? It's the deeper questions of identity, of religion, of history, of belonging. So in Roots, we're doing what we call pre-politics. We're doing the human connections, establishing the human empathy, trust, understanding that we believe is necessary for the political negotiations that will eventually lead us to a solution that will allow both sides to live together in this little sliver of land that we both call home. Thank you.
Thank you, Hanan. And thank you, Sean, for the great introduction at the beginning and describing the work that we do. My name is Noor, and I'm glad to be with you here, speaking to you on Zoom about Roots. And I will share from my side my very personal experience on how I found about Roots and how I joined and what I'm doing there today. But I will tell a little bit about my personal story as well. So my name is Noor Awad, and I live in the city of Bethlehem here in the West Bank in Palestine. But I was born in Amman in Jordan in 1991. But my family origins are neither from Bethlehem and definitely not from Jordan. My family origins goes back to Jerusalem, where my family had lived for a long, long time in a small village southwest of Jerusalem. My family comes from a village called Malha that was conquered in 1948 by the Israeli army during the war of the Nakba. And my family had to move from their village on what they thought would be temporary to a refugee camp in the region of Bethlehem. I know from my grandparents that they didn't want to stay in the refugee camp, and they were hoping that soon they will go back to their village. But they realized that at the end of the war, they are not allowed to go back to their village that became part of Israel. And now they are on the eastern side of the Green Line, of the ceasefire line between Jordan and Israel in 1949. And they are under the Jordanian occupation, under the Jordanian rule. So my grandfather took his family and moved out of the refugee camp to the little town of Bethlehem. And since then, my family lives in Bethlehem. But I was born in Jordan, in Amman, because my parents, who were born here in the West Bank, at some point they decided to move to Jordan, mainly because they were frustrated that they would ever have a chance or have a normal life here. That's the main reason why my father and my mother actually moved to Amman. I was born there. My brother also was born there. But in 1995, a very important thing happened in those years. In 1995, it was 2 years since the peace process, since the Oslo peace process began. And my parents started rethinking of actually coming back to Palestine and re-establish our life here in our country, in our homeland, since that they are talking now about peace. They are talking about ending the occupation. Soon there will be a state of Palestine in the West Bank and Gaza. And for my parents, that was a big sign of hope. And so they did. In 1995, my family moved back from Amman, Jordan to Bethlehem. And those years, before the second Intifada, the second Palestinian uprising, I was very young, but when I remember it, when I think about it, I remember the normal life that I had. And by normal life, I mean, I remember when my father used to work in Jerusalem, for example. And Jerusalem is not far away from where I live. It's about less than 20 minutes driving away. And sometimes my father would take me with him to his work to Jerusalem. We didn't have to cross a checkpoint like the checkpoint we have today. There was no separation barrier. It wasn't very difficult to travel to Jerusalem. In the weekends, my family would sometimes also go to the beach. We would go to Jaffa, to Akka, to Haifa, Tel Aviv. We would travel around the country. So that's what I mean by a normal life. I'm not saying there was no conflict. And I'm not saying that all of a sudden the occupation disappeared. But for me, I was 7 years old. I didn't really understood the complexity of the situation that I'm living under. But I grew up. The year 2000 came, and the peace process came to a dead end. And actually, the peace process that was supposed to lead us to a Palestinian state by the end of the year 1999, that didn't happen. And it got stuck. And all of a sudden, I found myself that my life now turned upside down. From a normal life that I used to have to a conflict that I'm living now in a war zone. The second Palestinian uprising started after Ariel Sharon went up to the Temple Mount, to Al-Aqsa, to the Noble Sanctuary, and violence spread from there. Now, during the years of the Intifada, I began to think about the situation that I'm living. Why I live under these circumstances? Why do we have occupation here in our homeland? Why do I have to bear all of the consequences of the conflict? And at some point, I came to this conclusion that I can never have a normal life in my country because I am another generation in this long ongoing conflict. So as long as I'm living here, like my grandparents suffered from the conflict, like my parents did as well, it seems like my generation will suffer from the conflict. So I start to have this idea, you know, when I was a teenager, and we are in the age of the internet, and I'm looking around, and I don't see that people my age, different places around the world, they live this situation. There are worse situations, there are bad situations, but I started to think that I should improve my life, and the only way to do that is to leave my country, go somewhere else, find a normal place where I can have a better life and I can have a future. So that's one way of thinking, and I think that, you know, for any people who are born in a conflict zone, in a conflict area, it's normal to start to think this way, especially if you lose the hope that you can ever do anything to change the reality. But that's the thing. I also started to ask myself, what can I do to change the reality that I live? What I have to do and what can I do? And especially that when we talk about the occupation, by the word we, I'm talking about my generation, on my side, on the Palestinian side. When we talk about the occupation is one of the consequences of the conflict that we have. And yes, Israel occupies us, and it's our enemy. But at the same time, my generation blame the past generations, the previous generations before us, for their lack of taking responsibility. We say that if my parents in their time, if my parents' generation, if they did better, or if my grandparents did better, then our situation would be much different today. Maybe I would say to myself sometimes, if my grandparents didn't run away from their village to the refugee camp, maybe I would have a different life today. Who knows? But the point here is that I blame the people before me, the generations before us, of not taking enough responsibility. And then I said to myself, when I'm thinking about running away from here, when I'm thinking about moving out from here, how is that taking responsibility? Because there is going to be a next generation of my people. Maybe I will have kids and they will be the next generation. So what did I do in my life to make sure that their future in my land, in our land, is better? And from this point, I started to feel that we have the responsibility. We must do whatever we can to change the reality that we have. And I want to say something here, that when people talk about the Israeli-Palestinian situation, they usually describe it with the word conflict. And it is a conflict. But for my generation who were born and saw the occupation, the wars in Gaza, we don't feel that we are in a conflict where we are two equal sides. We are just fighting over the land. We feel that we were born to be under this occupation, and we have the right to resist this occupation, to fight against it. And so from this perspective, from my generational perspective, I would normally think of that my role is to resist this occupation. And usually resistance is translated into violence or violent resistance. And there is a narrative in my society that supports very much, and facts as well, that supports very much the idea of violent resistance. But I also, through my activism at a young age, from a young age, I also learned about the nonviolent approaches, the nonviolent ways of resistance, and the active groups in my country that also does nonviolent resistance. And I understood, or I learned more about the importance of that. And but the point here is that whether if I'm violently resisting the circumstances, the occupation, or non-violently, I'm not doing it in any way with a partnership with Israelis. The Israelis here in this story are still only an enemy. not even human beings. There is no human picture for me in my head for the Israelis at that point. The Israelis are soldiers, are settlers, and the ones who conquered our land in 1948. So, to make a long story short, I finished my high school and I joined the tour guiding program here in Bethlehem. In 2014, I finished my training and I became officially licensed tour guide. Ideally, I would guide everywhere in the country, but because of the occupation and the political circumstances, I only guide in the West Bank, not in East Jerusalem. I guide mostly in Bethlehem, Ramallah, Jericho, Hebron. And in 2016, I was asked to guide a group of Americans. And this group of American students were part of a program called Middle East Studies that's based in Jordan, and they come for 2 weeks to Israel and to the Palestinian territories, and they visit both sides, learn and meet people on both sides, activists, politicians, decision makers, society. So I was just another tour guide on their program to show them around and educate them about the reality that we live. In one day, I had to take them to the city of Hebron and to spend most of the day or a full day there. I remember that day very well. We drove from Bethlehem. On the way down to Hebron, we passed by Gush Etzion, a settlement block in the area south of Bethlehem, north of Hebron. I would talk to them about the settlements and its effects on the city of Bethlehem and its effects on the national level, on the Palestinian national level. And then we went to Hebron. They also heard from me and from others living there about the occupation, the Oslo Accords, before that, after that, during the Intifada, the situation now. And at the end of their trip, or at the end of that day, we will still have 2 meetings to do. One meeting was with an Israeli settler who lives in the city of Hebron and who's going to talk to my group to represent to them the Israeli settlers' perspective in Hebron about the situation and about the life in Hebron. Now, that happened before that my groups met with Israeli speakers. Most of the time, I wouldn't be able to join them because, for example, in Hebron, they would meet inside one of the Israeli areas, one of the Israeli enclaves, the settlements, where I'm not allowed as a Palestinian tour guide to enter. So I would wait them outside at the checkpoint, and then they would come back to me after the talk. So I would hear from them what they have heard and what happened, but I'm not usually there. In that specific meeting, the different thing that happened is that I was able to join the group and to listen to the speaker firsthand on what he's going to say about the issues that he was supposed to talk about. And I remember that day very well. We sat there. I remember that meeting very well. We sat. He started to introduce himself. He told us his personal story as an American Jew who was born and grew up in the US. And then he decided to move to Israel to become a citizen. And not anywhere in Israel, he decided to move to the heart of the conflict or to the occupied territories, to the city of Hebron. But his entire story was based on 2 things that he said. The first thing was that there is no occupation. There can't be occupation because we as the Jewish people are returning to our ancient homeland. And so because we have this history on our homeland, and this is basically the source of legitimacy for our presence and our sovereignty over the land. Therefore, our sovereignty cannot be considered occupation. And I was like, what are you talking about? Because for me, I grew up and lived most of my life, and I still under the occupation. I live under Palestinian Authority in Bethlehem, which was founded in 1993. But at the same time, I live under Israeli military control, under Israeli military law. And the sovereignty over the West Bank is the Israeli sovereignty. And I am not an Israeli citizen, and I cannot be an Israeli citizen even if I want to, I call myself a Palestinian, but my state of Palestine is occupied by the state of Israel. Then the second thing he said, there is no Palestinian people. Something that Hanan mentioned earlier. And he said that we are only Arabs, mostly Muslims and some Christians. And we have today 22 Arab countries to go to. Why do we need another one? And I was also in my mind, what are you talking about? I mean, yes, we do share same language. We do share culture in many ways, religions. There is the idea that we consider ourselves one large nation, about pan-Arab nationalism, but we are not. I mean, for me, I can go to Jordan, but there is no way that I can become a Jordanian citizen, again, even if I wanted that. To go to a place like Dubai in the United Arab Emirates is very difficult for a Palestinian passport holder, Lebanon as well, and many other Arab countries. So what I felt from his talk was basically denial of my circumstances, my situation, and denial of who I am, what I claim to be. Therefore, I was very frustrated from listening to him, because everything for me that he said was nothing but lying to my face. And I left Hebron that day very frustrated. Of course, I had this argument with him at the end, and the group loved the argument. They were entertained a little bit by the argument. I think they learned some stuff from the argument that we had. But I left Hebron on my way to Bethlehem, and I still have a last meeting to do. And that meeting was at Roots, the organization that I'm talking on its behalf to you today. So I didn't know what Roots is, actually. I thought we are meeting just another settler from the area of Gush Etzion that was going to talk about Gush Etzion, but it turned out to be that this is a peace organization between Palestinians and Israeli settlers. And the first time I heard about that, I was very hesitant, suspicious, and every negative feeling that you imagine I had about it. Because what do you mean peace with these people? What do you mean peace with settlers? In my context, it doesn't sound in any way good or positive. But I had to go there. I had to bring the group there. And there I met Rabbi Hanan Schleisinger, the first person who I met at Roots. And my meeting with him was a turning point in my life. It opened my eyes. It changed my life forever, even I can say. Hanan told us his story, basically the same story that he just shared with you. And at the beginning, I felt that he's going to talk about Judea and Samaria, and he's going to talk about independence, and he's going to talk about his historical rights on this land. So there is nothing different from the settler of Hebron. But once he started to talk about his process of transformation, of seeing my people, of what he went through, I couldn't ignore that. And I thought about it very deeply. And I went back to Bethlehem that day very challenged and confused by the things that I heard from him. Because most of the things that he said, I didn't expect an Israeli settler, an enemy, to say to me. And after a few days, I went back. I went back to Roots because I understood that the message that I heard from Hanan was at least about two important things. The first thing was empathy, the ability of him to empathize with my situation, with me, with my people. And the second thing is recognition, his ability to give us or to give me this recognition. And I say to myself, if this person who's on the other side, on the enemy camp, can do that, if he's able to find empathy and recognition for my side, how can I do the same? How can I find empathy and recognition of the other side? Because I understood this is the way forward. This is the way for peace between the two sides. And what I like to actually describe it, not just peace, but reconciliation. Reconciliation between two identities that have been fighting over this land and the identity of this land for a long time now. And I went back to Roots because I wanted to learn that. and I met with Hanan again, and I met with Ali and Khalid and Shaul and Myron and other activists. And I learned that this is how we are going to make it, only through listening to the other side, only with creating empathy and understanding and recognizing who is the other side and what their identity is. And Hanan said something very important about roots. Roots is not about minimizing our identities and looking at our common humanity, and from there we are going to make peace. Roots is requiring us to do a harder job, a harder thing, which is focusing and practicing our identities without making our identities blinding us from the identities and the truth of the other people. Thank you for listening.
Noor, Rabbi Hanan, I cannot thank you both enough for sharing. I'm overwhelmed by your honesty and vulnerability, your willingness to share your lived experience with us. I feel humbled. There's a lot to process in what you both said. And I want to invite folks in the chat, if you have a question, go ahead and put it in there. I want to ask, there's not that much time. There's only just a few minutes left. And I want to be really mindful of both of your times because it's nighttime in where you are right now. I think it's probably around 11:30, midnight, something like that. And so I just want to be thoughtful about how long we keep you. My question is, in hearing you both speak, you went through a very personal transformation. For you, Hanan, it was only 7.5 years ago. And I imagine, Noor, for you, it was also within the last years. That means for both of you, you had relationships, familial relationships, professional relationships that aren't on the same page with you, that they have a very different ideology and a very different commitment to that identity. And I'm wondering for both of you how your relationships fared. And Noor, especially for you, because I think you said you were born in 1991. I can't do the math, but I'm thinking you're not even 30 yet. And I could imagine that young people your age, that they're feeling the injustice. And when they see your activism, do they see it as righteous or do they experience it as a betrayal? Do you have to work hard to be in relationship with people that you live with, grew up with, knowing that you're different? And Hanan, you're different now. And there's no going back once that's been revealed. And I'm wondering about how these relationships have fared, and if anyone's come along with you or rejected you as a result of this.
Noor.
Oh, I think I have to unmute you. Oh, sorry, Noor, unmute yourself again.
Thank you. Yeah. I have, when I joined Roots and when I started doing what I'm doing, and I shared with the people around me what I'm doing and what I'm part of and what do I believe now, I was faced with mostly people being shocked at me and like at what I'm saying to them. How could it be that Noor, that's always talking about resistance and always talking about, that we have a role and we should fight against this occupation, and now he's talking to settlers, and what he's trying to do, like people would easily misunderstood me and say that I am trying to legitimize the settlement movement, and I'm agreeing with settlers and I got all kinds of accusations. I got the accusation of being traitor, a sellout, and I think that to be in the place where I am today, it took me several things to do, or things that happened to me that's very personal, and that it's not easy. I understand also not everyone went through the same process, and I try to be careful when I try to convey the message to people my age. But you are right. When I told people around me about the work that I do, in general, there is a lot of skeptical reaction to it, and a lot of suspicion. But older people, people who are older than me, they didn't find it very problematic. They didn't really saw me crossing a red line. They remember the times when there was much more like connection and communication between Israelis and Palestinians, regardless of the political situation and regardless of the conflict and what's happening. For younger people who were more like furious and angry with me. But at the same time, there is a lot of curiosity. I mean, it takes me, for example, nowadays, I'm talking to a friend, and I met her last month. We are just like, she's like a new friend from Ramallah, and we are talking about this. And she don't agree with me yet. And every time we talk about it, it turns to be very, it gets like a very emotional discussion. And at some point, she don't want to talk about it anymore. And then she goes, but then she comes back again after a few days and then asks me more and more about it. So yeah, it's not easy to tell the people around me about the thing that I do, and especially that they might hear Hanan, and if they never really met with Israelis before, they will not really understand where Hanan is and what he is actually saying. For them, Hanan could be just admitting that his side is wrong, and therefore our side is right. And so what to be convinced? Sometimes I think that maybe that for my people, they have to hear the extreme side of the Israeli side, or like extreme people on the Israeli side, to understand the moderate side. That's one thought, one idea I think about. But I'm also being challenged by people who understand what Hanan is saying, but they will not agree with him. They will not. They don't think that that the idea of reconciliation that we are talking about, the idea of recognition between Palestinian national identity and Jewish Zionist identity, is something right to do, because they grow up with the narrative that the Zionist movement was a European colonial movement that used religion to justify taking our land. How could it be that we are going to reconcile with colonialism? I think that's a major question from my side to the message that I'm trying to bring. So yeah, I'm all the time challenged with my generation about this work at Roots, and they want to see. I think actions are mostly important. Sorry that I'm taking a long time to answer this, but we felt at Roots that actions are much stronger also than words sometimes. So Hanan could speak to a Palestinian group. I think he would much more affect them if there was a certain action that came out from him that they wouldn't expect that it would come from him or from anyone on the Israeli side.
Noor, thank you very much for responding. And truth be told, Noor, I can listen to you speak all day about your experience and the work that you're doing and your commitment to this work. So never hesitate to share, because it's truly salve for all of our souls. So thank you for that. And Hanan, how would you respond also to Jewish people, both in where you are and also American Jews who are having a reaction to this moment? How are they responding to your work, and how would you respond to us in terms of how we should show up?
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, I know.
So first of all, I have lost some friends over this work. Some people are deeply incredulous of how can you do this. On the other hand, my youngest daughter's been won over, and she's become a member of Roots and a leader of our summer camp, the director of our summer camp. Another daughter of mine sends her kids, my grandchildren, to our day camp. So there's certainly progress within the family. I'm a rabbi and I teach a lot of Jewish studies, but there have been groups that no longer want to hear me speak. Just yesterday, 2 days ago, actually got an email calling me an anti-Semite from an American Jew after reading a recent article I wrote. But that's the price you have to pay for. It seems to me that what we teach, in what we've experienced in Roots, what we've discovered, what we teach, is so obvious. It's so clear once you once you see the light. But of course, you can't preach it to other people because they're not there. And Noor and I and other Roots activists found again and again and again that very often we can't talk to our own people, but we can introduce our people to the side. And when the other side speaks, that's what makes a difference. There are people I can't convince, Israelis I can't convince, but when they meet Noor, it does something to them. Same thing, there are people that Noor can't convince, but it does something when they hear me, when they meet me. By the way, I'll just say that the experience that I've had numerous times of seeing Palestinians literally afraid of me, and then overcoming that fear and embracing, and you actually see the transformation happening, that's the most gratifying thing. It's those micro transformations that we believe in Roots are at the foundation of the macro transformation that has to take place. So you also asked me the question, how can you guys show up? Such a big question. I'll say a few tiny things. The last thing of those tiny things I'll say last. If you're American Jew and you know Hebrew, if you learned Hebrew, learn Arabic as well. If you're a supporter of Palestine and you know Arabic, learn Hebrew. If you read the Israeli media, read the Palestinian media as well. If you read the Palestinian media, read the Israeli media. If you're on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, and everyone is spreading the bad news, how the other side is so bad and how there's no hope and all it's just about violence and war. So take it upon yourself not to spread the bad news, spread only the good news. And it's hard to find the good news because no one else is spreading it. But once you find it, it's all over the place. And the good news of Roots, of the other 100 organizations working in reconciliation, interfaith dialogue groups, summer camps, music groups, running groups, sports groups, soccer groups. When you spread the good news, it creates hope. And enough hope moves the needle. If you're planning to come to this part of the world to visit, if you're planning to visit Israel, visit Palestine as well. If you're planning to come to this part of the world to visit Palestine, visit Israel as well. See both sides, talk to people from both sides. Back in America, join Interfaith Dialogue Group. Meet the other side. If you're an Israeli, meet Palestinians. If you're Palestinian, meet Israelis. If you're Muslim, talk to Jews. If you're a Christian, talk to the other. Of course, we need volunteers. We have an American Friends of Roots. We have a board. We need social media people. We need people who are good in finance. We need administrators. We need lawyers. Website development. If you're young in body or young in spirit, come to the land here, get on the plane and volunteer with us for 2 months or 3 months or 4 months. And of course, we need money. Money is unfortunately the most important thing because most of it has to be done by us. There are many, many wonderful, good-meaning people who want to come and help us, whether they're facilitators or psychologists or sociologists or political scientists. Some of them we can use, but in most cases, no, we have to do the work ourselves. And that requires tremendous amounts of money from individuals, from foundations, and from governments. You have to convince your governments to give money, prevail upon foundations to give money yourself. You can invite us to come to speak. We have an American speaking tour in November to speak in your yoga centers and your synagogues, churches, mosques, universities, community centers. Invite us to speak in your homes for a parlor meeting. Gather 20, 30, 40 people so they can hear the message and spread the word. And again, like embarrassed to say, but it's about money. It's about raising money. I probably left out a few things, but one of the most important things is what sums up everything we talked about, which is this, that if you came to this event today as a strong supporter of Israel, we hope you leave as a strong supporter of Israel. And if you came into the event as a strong supporter of Palestine, we hope you leave as a strong supporter of Palestine. But the thing is this, don't leave as a strong supporter of one side at the expense of the other side. We ask you to leave as a strong supporter of Israel and as a strong supporter of Palestine, or a strong supporter of Palestine and a strong supporter of Israel, because it's only if you support both sides that you're really supporting peace and a better future for both sides.
Thank you so much. And I feel like I can say on behalf of everybody here, like this was informative and moving, deeply, deeply moving, and so grateful. There's a part two to this, which is we asked everybody we want people to sit with this for a couple of days. People get very reactionary, big feelings come up. And when big feelings come up, if the trauma hasn't been processed, we can lash out or need an answer now just to soothe some of the aggravation we feel in our body. And so we want people to sit, to breathe, to check in with themselves, to write questions. And on Tuesday, we're going to come together. Hala, one of my partners at Off the Mat, one of the co-founders who's listening, but she is in a car with her family, so she can't turn this on. But Hala is a somatic therapist, social justice activist, and she will be on as well to support. And we want to invite people to come on, and you and Noor will answer questions and help people to process some of the feelings that are coming up. And we can do it in a way that's more integrative and not as reactionary, and in a place that's more grounded and heart-centered. And so that's at 11 o'clock our time here in Los Angeles on Tuesday, and look very, very forward to that. In closing, I'd love everyone just to ground. So if you would sit up tall and close your eyes once again.
Noor has his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, what's that? Oh, Noor, go ahead. I'm sorry, Noor.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just want to say one last thing.
Please.
I just feel it's important to be safe. I don't want to give you the wrong impression after my answer that the activists of Roots are just a small number of people who did like a very advanced level of personal transformation, and that we are far away from what our people on both sides feel and think and concern and fear about. I want to emphasize that it's very important for us as activists to also stay in good connection with our societies in order to bring out the message more and bring the work to our society on both sides. If you go, like for example, like with myself in the past 2 weeks with the violence that was happening, you'd see that, for example, on my Facebook page, I was very active in discussions with many Israelis, some of them outside of the circle of Roots, and we would sometimes discuss and clash and argue and discuss again and disagree with each other, and that all of that for me is being done. You know, when I explain what Palestinians are thinking or what they are saying and what they are supporting, what they are not supporting, it's for me the genuine effort to really represent what my people think. So I'm aware that maybe at some point I'm like a bit far away from what my people are thinking, but at the same time I want to keep the connection, and I want my Israeli partner also to keep their connection with the Israeli society. So I just wanted to say that to make it more clear about the situation at Roots.
Thank you, Noor. Noor, could you say what your Instagram page is?
It's Noor. Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I can share it like in the chat.
Okay. All right. Just in case you want to follow, and we're going to be sending out an email that has some additional information that Hanan has sent us about just ways to get involved. If you're interested in donating, we really do encourage it. Like I said, I've been to this place in the world. I've seen the work that they're doing. I've sat in the rooms with them, and it is in my hope in the future that Off the Mat can do listening, learning tours with Hanan and Roots, and bring people over to learn more about the conflict and the work that's being done. And so I encourage all of you to do what you can. Nothing is too small, that it'll be used well. I can promise you that the money will be used well. And there's other ways that we can get involved as well. And we'll be sending you all that information out. And we want to encourage you to establish your own relationship with Friends of Roots. And to Hanan's point, feel comfortable. You don't need to reach out to Off the Mat into the world for permission, if you will. You reach out to them, you establish your own dialogue, you invite them to your home, family, community. It would bring us a lot of joy to know that this particular message was being spread here in the United States and anywhere in the world that you're all listening. So in closing, go ahead and sit up tall and close your eyes and just take a very deep breath in. Exhale it out through your mouth. And track your body. Notice what this conversation brought up for you. Maybe relief, affirmation, concern. Without judging it, just be aware. What is this narrative that lives in the body? And how is that narrative activating itself right this moment based on this shared conversation of different ideologies, but the same purpose, which is peace? Feel the connection of your body on the earth and any sensations you might feel. Attune yourself to the quality of your breath. And then please place your palms back into prayer. And together we give thanks for this conversation, this vulnerability and humility and commitment to truth. We give thanks for all the tools that are available to help us to do the inner work necessary to unpack our own trauma so that we can move towards each other with more empathy and a willingness to reconcile the truths that we've been told to a higher truth, that love is everything, peace is essential, and that all of us have work to do in order to honor each other and create a space where there is dignity, equality, happiness, resources, abundance, safety, and peace for all. We ask, may we show up and do that work in order to ensure that that is so, and work together more diligently in the name of love. Take another deep breath in. Exhale it out through the mouth. Everyone, thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you on Tuesday, and reach out to Anita at offthematintotheworld.org if you have any questions or concerns. Hanan, Noor, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you, and stay safe. Keep doing your work. And I look forward to learning more about the way in which you do this work on Tuesday. So thank you, everyone. Thank you. I'm looking at all your chats. Thank you so much.